Have you noticed banks have cafes now? There are 5 Capital One Cafe locations around Boston just in this 5-mile radius. Since 2015, the company has opened over 50 cafe-style branches across 18 states. This trend has gone global, with banks like Santander and CaixaBank opening up cafe-style branches in South America and Europe. In total, there are now more than 229 bank cafe hybrids worldwide. In an age where physical branches seem less necessary than ever, some branches are investing in them more than ever.
Initially, I thought they were crazy. I was like, what are you doing?
Between 2008 and 2020, more than 13,000 branches around the US closed their doors, largely due to the rise of mobile banking, the cost of the branch, and the increase in bank mergers. But surprisingly, some banks are actually doubling down on their brick and mortar branches. Let's go back to that Capital One example. In late 2021, Capital One opened a new cafe at the Mall of America, and in 2023, opened its first North Texas location in Frisco. These cafes aren't just your small neighborhood bank. Some are placed in busy shopping hubs like Westfield Topanga and Irvine Spectrum. Visually, a bank cafe feels more like a Starbucks meets co-working space than a traditional bank, with open seating, community areas, and cafe ambassadors instead of tellers. Some banks are betting even bigger on physical locations. This year, Chase announced plans to open up 500 new branches and renovate 1,700 more by 2027. Again, this might seem counterintuitive given the rise of mobile banking and the decline of physical locations, but Chase's bet on bank branches is part of a clever new strategy, which we'll get to in a second. But first, we need to acknowledge that physical branches do still play a vital role for banks and their customers.
Chase says 75% of its customers visit a branch regularly, and the bank wants to keep them there to sell personalized services like mortgages, small business loans, and retirement planning.
Simply put, banks are more likely to generate revenue from these services if they have a branch for customers to visit. So banks like Capital One are inviting them to places they actually want to go, like coffee shops. Plus, financial stress is universal, and many people still prefer speaking with a real person when making major financial decisions, like applying for a loan, making a withdrawal, and opening an account. By offering a physical space without expectations, the cafes could help ease that stress. A 2006 study found that there's an emotional bond between customers and coffee houses called place attachment. A kind of symbolic bond that's reinforced by the appealing qualities of a setting. Capital One hopes that by making its branches a place people want to be, these people will in turn visit and eventually bank with Capital One. And it seems to be working. Capital One's foot traffic in March 2021 was up 26% over pre-pandemic levels, a little over 5 years after its first bank cafe opening. Okay, back to that Chase story I teased before. Chase, too, is investing more in branches. In 2022, Chase introduced a surprising strategy, building 114 new branches. And remember, they announced in 2024 that they plan to open 500 more. This was a really big deal, which I'll tell you more about in a sec. But first, while banks are doubling down on branches, you could be doubling down on your own business ideas. With the My First Million Business Idea Database, you'll get direct access to over 50 profitable ideas generated by the minds behind the My First Million podcast. Whether you're starting small, aiming big, or just don't know where to begin, the first step is clicking the link. So go ahead, click the link below to get started. Okay, now back to Chase. Because Chase was actively expanding into new markets despite the broader industry choosing to scale back. Chase intentionally chose markets with limited access to traditional banking, such as lower income and rural areas. Nearly 17 million consumers living in rural areas hold over $100 billion in deposits and $175 billion in loans with Chase. But there's another motivation behind this building boom. Here's finance professor Jamie Peters.
By going and building these new branches and having that placard on the side of the road that people pass every day, that is brand awareness. That is trust building.
In other words, Chase's branches are designed to be working billboards. In other words, a big brand awareness play. This approach has made Chase the only bank with branches in all 48 contiguous states. But are physical branches still a smart move? And does brand awareness actually make a difference? To find out, I spoke with an advertising expert.
Initially, I thought they were crazy. I was like, what are you doing? But I could see the business strategy right away. If you've got a place where you already go that you're comfortable and you hang out there like maybe once, twice a week, or maybe you go there 5 days a week and get your coffee before you get on the train, your brain knows, hey, wait a minute, I need a mortgage or I need a car loan. I have a person who's an expert in that. I've seen that woman there, that man there every day. It's really when you're ready to make that decision, then you engage with that brand. So that's why I think the strategy is brilliant.
Whether it's Chase with its new branches or Capital One with its cafés, a branch's main value today is about being seen. This keeps the brand visible, trusted, and relevant.
Brand awareness absolutely works. When you go into a grocery store, most people don't know this, but you're reaching for an item for a reason. And you always reach for something that you're familiar with. How you got that familiarity, you can get that 100 different ways, but you're almost never reaching for the unfamiliar. And that's done through brand awareness.
From 2022 to 2023, annual bank branch closures slowed, dropping from 1,854 in 2022 to 1,409 in 2023. However, some customers have grown frustrated with the changing bank branch experience, and specifically by how banks are deprioritizing in-person bank tellers. A customer at a Bank of America in Florida tried to pay off her mortgage, but found herself in a lobby full of customers with no one to direct her to either a teller or financial advisor. Okay, so banks innovating their spaces isn't for everyone, but it does prove that banks aren't ready to give up on branches quite yet, and that they are willing to get super creative to keep them alive. Just like banks are thinking outside the box, you can too. Don't forget to check out the My First Million Business Idea Database and subscribe to the Hustle newsletter for more business and tech stories like this.